Hi, this is Stevie. This is a little sketch of a painting that I recently did to donate to Scottsdale Artist School for their upcoming Beaux-Arts fundraiser. This is just a small 5x5 sketch, but I think it's a good demonstration of how to get a looser look in your watercolors. And here I'm doing some lemons. And notice how I flicked the water on the paper when I first started. And that's to get some of the color to run. If I cover the whole surface with water, that's hard to control. But if I just flick some water on, it hits different spots, and you'll see how the color runs slightly out of the lines where I do that. And that helps to give the looser look. So right now I'm just applying, that's Hansa Yellow Medium that I'm using, just applying my first bit of paint, and then I threw in a little bit of Hansa Yellow Deep as well. And I'm just continuing on, adding bits of color to the 3 lemons. Trying to keep those bright spots in the middle so I don't lose those highlights. And you can see now how some of that paint has gone outside the lines. And I want it to do that. I want the yellow to go outside the lines, and I'll blend it in with the leaf colors once I start painting the leaves. Now I'm adding some green. I think that's a sap green that I added to the edges of those lemons. And I like the variation in color, and that green will also play an important role in separating the 3 objects from each other as I get further into the painting. And I should mention that this color is going to lighten up quite a bit as it dries. So it might look funny now, but it will be much lighter once I get it to dry. And notice how I was encouraging some of the yellow color to go outside the lines. I just added a little bit of water to the edge of the lemons, and that made that color run because I wanted to get some of that color blended in with the leaves that I'm putting in now. So right now you can see I'm not making definite leaf shapes. I really don't like leaves. I find that they're a big distraction in so many paintings because they are often just outlined and they grab so much attention. So what I do instead is use them to create a background, but without those definite shapes. And I've just practiced a lot with my brush to create random shapes like that. And what you may not be able to see is I'm using the belly of my brush quite a bit when I move that brush around. I move the color around. I apply the color and then I lay that brush down and spread it out with the belly of the brush. There I was just drying that a little bit with my heat gun because there was a lot of water on the surface, so that I can go back now and do another layer of leaves without all of that color running into the lemons. And here I'm looking for some areas where I want to call a little bit of attention to the painting. And where those lemons come together, the V shapes, that's a good place to get some darker color, and just kind of all around. But notice how much white I leave in the background. It really is overwhelming if you cover the entire background with green leaves. There again, I was going to my heat gun to dry the paper a little bit more. And I'm just going to keep continuing to work, going around the edges of the lemons with my green leaves to help further define the shapes of those lemons. And now I've switched to my silver brush. That is a 1/4-inch dagger, and I use that quite a bit in backgrounds. If you've noticed in some of my other videos, I do that. It's a real floppy brush, and I can really dance that brush on the paper and get those random shapes. Now I'm getting the green around the lemons a little bit darker. Each layer I add adds a little more color to help bring out the lemons. Notice how when I apply that green color, the lemon tends to pop out compared to the others. So I'll just continue working around, picking out areas where I want that darker color, and that will really call attention to that particular area. Where those lemons come together is a good place to do that. And notice also that I apply the dark color right up next to the lemons, but I don't pull that dark color out further out into the paper. So I put the dark color right up next to the object I'm painting, and then I use a lot of water to pull that color out. Again, I just don't want that green to be overpowering. And if I kept it a green color, a dark green color, all over the paper, it would be very distracting. Now I'm cleaning up some edges there. Because I added so much water to the paper when I was doing the leaves, it tended to create a hard outline on the lemons, and I didn't want that. So I'm going back with my 1/4-inch flat brush. It's just damp, it's not wet, just a damp flat brush, and I'm cleaning up those edges. Just going right along those lemon edges with that damp brush, and that'll help to clean them up. And then I can continue on darkening the other areas that I want to darken. Again, I'm being very careful to leave some white space too, so that I don't end up with an entirely green background. It's so easy to do. For those of you that paint a lot in watercolor, you know that. Very easy to get overpowered by it. So it's looking pretty good now. Just doing a little cleanup there. Notice I had those stems drawn at the top of the lemon, and there's going to be a good opportunity there to do some negative painting inside those stems to bring them out. And I think I do that a little bit further on in the video. Still working around, cleaning up edges, getting a little dark color right up against the lemons. But notice how I'm pulling that color out, and when I pull that color out, I just have water on my brush. That little 1/4-inch dagger brush really holds a lot of water. It amazes me. It's such a small brush, but it really holds a lot of water. So it's great for blending things. And look at my lemons now, and all of that green color that I had added to them. Now that it has dried, it's not nearly as overwhelming. And I really like dropping in colors like that, mixing colors. It's kind of boring to look at an object that is solidly painted one color. So I like to drop in other colors pretty much for anything I'm painting. Just refining the shape of the lemons. Again, that little dagger brush is holding a lot of water, and I'm just pulling out some of that color when I apply it. I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th layer of color now. And I should also mention that I'm not a big believer in working on a painting for several days. Now this is a small surface, but even with a larger painting, I like to get it all done in the same day, because it just, I don't know about you, but it's really hard for me to go back to a work the next day and have the same feeling about it. So I like to get it done all at once. And I just added some green right at the top of that bottom lemon to help separate the lemons. And notice how it brought those 2 top lemons forward. And now I'm going back in what I was talking about earlier with the stems at the top, doing a little negative painting with the green in between those stems. I just used a small brush, maybe a 2 or a 4 round. And so I created the shape of the stems just by painting in between them. And that's negative painting. And I don't do entire paintings in negative painting, but I do use that technique quite a bit in my paintings. Now I'm just doing some final touches here, getting a little more color where I think it needs it. I like the Hansa Yellow Deep. It's kind of a yellow-orange color, and it helps to break up all of that solid yellow. I've been pretty good at keeping my highlights on those lemons. The lemon at the bottom, I lost a lot of my highlight there, but since it's kind of behind the other 2, I don't really care. But the 2 forward lemons, I was able to keep the highlights, so that's pretty good. And back to the heat gun and just cleaning up the edges a little bit. checking for any things that I want to make some corrections to. This was done pretty quickly, but you could take a lot more time on yours. This is a pretty easy thing to draw, so if you're beginning at painting, at watercolor painting, this is a good thing to start with. Maybe not so much the loose painting, but just using simple objects and learning how to paint objects that are in front of each other. This is a good lesson on that. And that just about does it. Thanks so much for watching, and if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing.